Hey folks, welcome to Wild Roots, and just popped down to this rather gorgeous little spot in the woods, not very far from where I live in my tiny house. I'm back in Sussex again, and as you can see behind me is my rather old mountain bike from the 90s. I thought I'd get that out for a bit of an airing, been doing a bit of tuning up. So I wanted to just explain a little bit about what the trip I've just done has been all about, because as you may have been watching, if you've seen some of my previous videos, I've been travelling, overlanding on my mountain bike, doing a bit of bike packing all the way from the East Sussex coast to the far tip of Pembrokeshire on the St David's Head in South Wales, and that has been, I've managed probably something close to around 500 miles that I've covered. So it's been epic, multi-day, probably around about 10-12 days of pure travel and camping, just wild camping in my bivvy, and it's been amazing. But there were a number of reasons why I did this trip. They were sort of philosophical, spiritual, practical. I wanted to test myself. I've never done anything like this before, and I've had a habit in my past to doubt myself and my own abilities, so I wanted to test myself physically and mentally with something challenging like this. I was on quite a heavy steel bike with no gears, which made the journey far harder, and I was expecting that. So I've got a long list of adaptations and changes that I would like to make, because I'm now well and truly hooked on bike packing, folks, without any doubt. But I proved something to myself there, that despite my age and having, old back injuries, knee injuries, stuff like that, it's just not impacted me at all, and it's so much more to do with states of mind. Another side to it was that I wanted to find out what it would be like to live a much more kind of minimalistic lifestyle. Now this is where the sort of points rather sort of kind of diverge between the practical experimentation and the spiritual element. So I don't want to be too long on this, but I spent a lot of my life with a growing sense of sort of disquiet and a kind of uncontented sense. Just ordinary work life, doing what I was doing, getting up every day, doing the same thing, getting my pay through whatever means. And I found myself, on a reflection of that, accruing more and more material possessions. And the more material possessions I got, the more I found myself not feeling particularly happy or content or satiated with it. So I've always been kind of aware of that, because after all, I've lived a very unorthodox life for most of my life. But even living on the fringes of society as I do, I still noticed the manifestation of this kind of risk, I guess I'd call it, that you can fall into with modern society, where you end up wanting more and more stuff. So I wanted to come away and live a very minimal lifestyle for a while, see how it felt. Admittedly, I've done this in the summer months, so that's got to be taken into account, but I've come back with a very much firmer feeling that I want to actually be rid of a lot of the stuff I've accumulated. So I've kind of made the decision I don't want any kind of internal combustion engine vehicle again in my life. Now, whether I stick to that or not, I'm not entirely sure. I'm not saying that that's 100% certain, but I'm fairly committed to, I'm going to get rid of my van of dreams, which is a big decision for me, because it's something that I have spent a lot of time and effort on getting right, but especially with it being a more recent diesel engine, it's been nothing but trouble. So in many ways, I feel as though things that we once relied upon that were quite simple, reliable and easy to maintain are becoming far harder for us individually to maintain. Our houses are more complicated, our heating systems are more complicated, the vehicles we drive are more complicated, vastly so, and often for questionable motives and reasons. So I'm finding myself thinking, I want out of this, and I want something that's going to give me what feels like spiritual and tangible nourishment out of life. I want to be able to find an element of service in my life where I can help other people. That's a huge motivation to me. And I'm hoping that I can do that through my knowledge of nature and through my knowledge of what nature has done for me. Because even though, no, my life's not perfect, I mean, what is perfect and whose is, but I've found so much peace and tranquility from nature whenever I've had really hard times, and lately I've had a lot of challenges thrown at me by life. Being in nature has been one of the biggest sources of peace and tranquility. So that's a big part of why I did this journey. And now I've come back, I've resolved to probably try and actually get rid of, give away, donate, sell, I don't know, maybe 80-90% of my life possessions, which is, even the way I live, far too much for me to be comfortable with. I feel it like a physical weight. I feel like I'm dragging a weight round. You see, this was another of the sort of spiritual elements. Regrets from the past, feelings of inadequacy, feelings that I should have done things better, all of that stuff in the past. And it's why I have Snufkin on my bike and wear a, Daft Snufkin hat. It's not just me trying to be performative or funny in some way. It's actually like a little bit of a marker and reminder for me of what Snufkin in the Moomins, if you wondered what the heck a Snufkin actually is, he's a character, a wanderer and a traveller out of a children's series of books written by a Finnish writer quite a while ago. She was called Tove Jansson, and she wrote these books. And this character, Snufkin, he was a traveller and a wanderer, but he found enormous tranquility in being in the now, not in the past, not in the future. No regret from the past, no anxiety about moves towards goals and ambitions in the future, just very much being in the now, kind of Yoda style, if you like, another one of my kind of go-to little sort of non-existent heroes. But he would often make fun of characters in the stories for getting a new armchair, and would sort of chuckle to himself, I see you've got another armchair. I do find it very, very odd how people like to get new things. When you've got things, you have to look after them. You owe them a debt. You need to maintain them. And you have to worry about whether they're okay. The less you've got, the less weight you're carrying around. So that has been quite a significant element of my attraction towards him as a character and a sort of a role model in a way. I want to be able to have a service element in my life. It feels to me important to feel that you're part of something bigger than yourself, whatever that might be to you, whether it's a formal religious faith or whether it is a faith in the cosmos and in nature to provide. But I feel a service element is also a vital part of life. Too much I've spent my time thinking, just on the sort of surface, I need to get more money so as I can get this and I can get that, and not enough on actually feeling, how can I live my life in a way where I can actually help others? Now, since building Wild Roots Wood years ago and then developing the foraging calm element of it, that came about as a result of doing lots of mushroom foraging courses, and the majority of people would come along wanting to do the courses because they were really interested in finding what tasty wild mushrooms there are out there. Secondarily, they were coming along wanting to know about, medicinal mushrooms, immune boosting mushrooms, things that can help you, help your health. But I also noticed a growing number of people coming to me quietly and saying, I've been suffering from terrible anxiety, and the time I've spent in the woods with you learning about what mushrooms are tasty has actually made me feel calmer and more grounded than anything that I've experienced before. I've been on antidepressants, I've seen therapists, and nothing has compared to the way that I've felt just spending a little bit of time wandering through the woods at a slow pace with you, talking about the things that we see, the types of trees, the plants that grow, what you might see in a stream. And that struck me. I've never been good at taking any kind of compliments and tend to brush them under the carpet, which is another of my bad habits. But I started thinking there might be something I could do here. I might be able to construct something out of this. We've all got to live one way or another in a modern world, but I thought, what if I could actually construct something that would offer a service to help other people, so that I can, when I, leave this world, I feel like I might have in some just really small way made it a tiny bit of a better place than it was when I came into it, which is all I want. So anyway, the foraging calm idea it was an idea that came to me, but I thought, it's not just foraging mushrooms, not just foraging something tasty, not just foraging berries or leaves that we can eat safely, or foraging bark we can use to light a fire, or practical materials, but it's also foraging a sense of calmness, and most importantly of all, it is foraging a sense of connectedness. Because this is one of the biggest problems I see with modern society at the moment, is a propensity constantly through social media and through the news to almost separate and divide us, to separate us from each other, to separate us from nature and the environment and what it can offer, so as to show what society can offer instead. Have a nice holiday, buy a new car, and then you don't need to go out for a walk in the woods. But most of all, separation from ourselves, because all of these things that we're connected with are interconnected themselves. Everything, I believe, is about connection, completely. Connection to self, connection to nature, and connection to each other. They're all interlinked. Just like with my interest in mushrooms, under the ground are all of the mycelium that are connected to the sedges and the ferns and the trees. All of it is interconnected. That's how the balance works in the universe. And I think it goes a lot further than the scientists and the scholars even give it credit for. I think these connections go vastly further. I think they transcend time and space. And we're all part of that, whether we know it or not. But I think a lot of us are sort of, through no fault of our own, forgetting those connections and then wondering, what is this little voice in the back of my mind coming from time to time going, something doesn't feel right, something feels missing, something feels incomplete. Why do I feel anxious, and why, despite getting a better car and having a relaxing holiday, do I still feel a sense of disquiet and not feeling content somehow? I don't understand it. I've got everything I could possibly want. What is this saying? So that's what I've been going through, and my quest has been to try and find an answer to that. For years I've found quite an answer in nature, but the last few months have offered me a lot of personal challenges. Life's really thrown some fairly heavy stuff at me, and I think for a reason, and it's taught me quite a lot about myself and my own deep wishes and what I need, and understanding what that word means, need, truly. What do I need? What do I need? And who am I? What am I here for? So anyway, that's what the trip's been all around. This has now gone on for far too long, so I don't know how I'm going to edit and pare this down into any form that I can actually get up on platforms for you guys to see, if you're even vaguely interested. But watch this space. I'm going to try my hardest. I'm not good with business. I'm not good with making money. Never have been. I'm not particularly interested in it. And in a modern world, it's very, very difficult without that kind of stuff. So it's not great. But what I am good at is this, and is nature. And if I can in some way act as some sort of a guide or conduit to people that feel like they're in some way struggling or suffering and are looking to try and find solutions, I would deeply love to be able to do that. So anyway, there we go. That's a little bit about my ideas and thinking. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'm going to be definitely doing some more far out journeys to different places in the future. Delighted to see very recently that my little girl, who's about to turn 8, is now fully riding her own bike without stabilizers, so that's super exciting because that means she's going to be getting into bike packing. I'm quite certain of that, if I don't bore her to tears over the whole thing. Anyway, lots of love and blessings to you all, and I shall see you again soon.